All right, good morning, guys. We are going to work through power of a quotient. Last time I saw you, we worked through the rules for products with powers. Now we're going to switch gears and go to quotients. So take a minute, set up a table for yourself like we've been doing in our notes, and label it as power of a quotient. All right, here we go. Our first example we're going to work through is going to be 2/3 to the power of 4. Now the expanded version of that is the same thing as if we did 2/3 times 2/3 times 2/3 times 2/3, 4 times, okay? Now, just like with multiplying any fraction, you go straight across the top and straight across the bottom. So in the numerator across the top, we have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which means we've got 2 to the 4th. And in the denominator, we've got 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, which means we've got 3 to the 4th. Our next example, let's work with some variables. We'll do x over y to the power of 3. So just like with our previous example, we're going to expand it. So we've got x over y, and x over y. Hopefully you're seeing a pattern here where if we go straight across the numerator, across the top, we've got 3x's or x cubed. And across our denominator, we've got y times y times y. So y cubed. And our last one, let's do some numbers and variables. So we'll have 2a over b. And we'll just square this one. So what we have is 2a over b times 2a over b. Take a second and try to think of what you think the simplified expression should be for this one. This one's a little different just because it has the 2 and the a up top. So it has to be, our answer has to include 2 squared times a squared all over b squared. So did you give the 2 the exponent as well, or did you leave it out? Okay, just double check your answer. Here's our rule. Okay, so a power of a quotient, the power gets applied to every term of the quotient. All right, guys, we have one other rule, and that's going to be the quotient of powers. Notice how it kind of flip-flops the order. So take another minute, set up another chart, and then we'll get started. All right, this one's going to be a little different because our expression is actually going to have the same bases in the numerator and the denominator, but with different exponents. So our first example we'll have x to the 4th over x squared. Okay, notice that both the exponents are already inside the parentheses. They're right next to and attached to the variable. So my expanded expression in my numerator, I'm going to have x times x times x times x. And in the denominator underneath, I only have 2. I've got x times x. Now when you see it expanded like this, you'll notice we can cancel out some terms. So that pair of x's cancels, this pair cancels, and it leaves me with just 2 on top. So my simplified expression is just x squared. Okay, let's do another one. How about we do a to the 5th over a. Now remember, if there's not an exponent written there, you can really imagine that there's a 1. Okay, so if you don't like that there's no exponent, just throw in a 1. So expanded, we've got a times a times a times a times a, and just 1 in the denominator, okay, which means 1 pair of a's are going to cancel. I'm left with 4 on top, so I've got a to the 4th. Again, hopefully you're kind of seeing a pattern, but we'll do one more. We'll work with x's again. We'll do x to the 6th over x to the 5th. How about? Okay, so expanded, you've got 6 on top and 5 in the bottom. And you don't necessarily need those dots in between. We know we're multiplying if they're written next to each other. All right, so if you've got it all expanded, cancel out pairs of x's, top and bottom. Okay. We're left with just 1 x on top. So we'll write 1x. Okay. Now look at our pattern. Try to think about how you got from column 1 over to column B. Okay. And think of a rule that could simplify those expressions. All right, here's the rule for you guys. If you're dividing with the same base, okay, so notice how we had x's with x's, a with a, x with x. Dividing with the same base, you subtract the exponents. So in our first example, we had 4 and 2. We ended up with 4 minus 2, or 2. Then we had 5 and 1. We ended up with 4. 6 and 5 ended up with 1. Okay. Here's a few practice for you. Try them on your own first. I'll post the answers and see how you did. All right, double check your answers. Make sure you are careful with your negatives, careful with your parentheses, and double check